Today you're going to learn podcast marketing. So this is the definitive guide to podcast marketing. You're going to learn how to promote your podcast and how to profit from your podcast too. So this all comes about because my podcast called On in 5, and I checked out their podcast. I was absolutely blown away by what they're doing. I really want to support them in some small way because as a content creator myself, I know their struggle. I know the pain of pouring your heart and soul into something and you're not getting the results that you expect or deserve. So I've been there. I know what it's like, and I've learned a few things over the last 20 years of this digital marketing thing, and I feel like I really want to help them out. So that's really where this tutorial comes from. So I thought, while I'm offering those guys some marketing advice, maybe the Profit Copilot audience will benefit from this too. So that's how today's tutorial came about. So we've got a lot to cover. Let me run you through what you're going to learn in this tutorial today. So you're going to learn how to diversify everything so you protect yourself, you protect your business, you grow faster and you make more money. You're also going to learn how to play the iTunes algorithm so it rewards your hard work and gives you a bigger audience. You'll discover how to know who your podcast audience really is so you can turn them into raving fans. Then we're going to look at keyword research so you can find new, possibly lucrative opportunities that you might not have considered before. Next is podcast optimization, and this means your audience will come to you. Then we're going to look into creating podcast content so you create content that keeps people hooked and gets them returning for more. We'll briefly touch on creating a high impact intro. This is essential for brand identity. You're going to learn how to use a call to action so you can start making money, real money, from your podcast. You'll also learn how to grow your audience threefold without doing that much extra work. We're going to take a deep dive into marketing funnels so you can really make money from your podcast. And this is the secret sauce to building a large audience on the internet. You'll also learn about retargeting so you can grow your audience faster without breaking the bank. And we're going to look at real tracking so you can find out what works and avoid what doesn't. You're going to learn how to deal with haters so you can really focus on what matters, the audience who appreciates you. Then I'm going to give you the number one method that anyone can use to generate more traffic, get more listeners, even if you're new or nobody has heard of you. Now, you and I both know that today's tutorial could easily be packaged and sold for hundreds of dollars as a course, but I'm not going to do that because I want you to get results fast and I want to remove all the obstacles that might be holding you back from achieving that success, because I believe that content creators have got a right to profit from their passions. That's what Profit Copilot is all about. So let's get down into today's tutorial, because why publish content anyway? Well, publishing content gives you power. It's as simple as that. It puts you in a very powerful position. And when it comes to the internet, it's all about content. That's what all attention is on. All eyeballs are on content. So when you publish content, you get that attention eventually. It takes a little while to get going and get that traction, but eventually things start to snowball if you are persistent. And it does take persistence. It does take hard work to get there, but it is worth it because that attention equals profit. But first, a warning. Some of what you hear today might sound crazy. You might not even like some of it. And some of it might sound counterintuitive. But trust the process. Stick with what has been proven to work. And I have got 20 years experience. I've seen what works behind the scenes. I've worked with some big names on the internet and I know what they do. I know how they build these big audiences. And that's what I'm teaching you today. How to build a real, sustainable, reliable business. And that's what it's all about. It's about making profit from your passions. So no matter what stage you are at right now, you need to diversify everything. I'm talking everything because you need to protect yourself. You need to create multiple income streams, have multiple traffic sources. And this is going to protect you and your business because on the internet, a lot of what we do is beyond our control. So for example, if you're getting a lot of traffic from iTunes and your podcast is shut down on iTunes because it violates the terms of service, or maybe iTunes takes a dislike to what you're doing for whatever reason, if you are 100% reliant on iTunes, guess what? Your business is going down. So we need to diversify everything. We diversify your traffic sources. We diversify your income streams. So if one gets hit, which can happen on the internet, then you have another that you can rely on, and you can start to rebuild. So your entire business is not wiped out in one go. We absolutely want to have multiple streams, traffic streams and income streams. Diversify everything. And when you do this, you'll be able to grow multiple audiences across multiple platforms. Imagine that. So you're not just relying on any single platform. You have multiple ways to grow a strong and steady business. But the most important lesson when it comes to diversifying everything is to get your listeners off these platforms that you don't have control over. Get them onto a platform that you do have control over. The best way of doing that is to get them onto an email list. An email list is something that you have 100% control over all the time. No one's going to take that away from you, because when you build an email list, this is an asset that you own and control. It's on your land. So if you're growing a podcast audience on iTunes or Google Play or Spotify, well, all these places are someone else's land, and you don't have any control over that. So you need to use that as part of your marketing in order to get your audience onto a system or an asset that you have control over. So the best way of doing that is with an email list. We're going to go into that in a little bit more detail later on, because that's your real business and that is your real audience. That's where your real audience will live. And I know it sounds counterintuitive when you're talking about building a podcast audience. You think about Spotify and iTunes and Google Play and all these places, and email is probably way down on your list, but it has to be front and center, because that is where the real business is. Because you're going to be able to tell that audience every time you publish a new episode, every time you have an offer to promote, there is an audience ready and willing to consume whatever you give them. So don't confuse action with progress. Don't confuse action with success. They're two separate things. So you might be publishing content via your podcast on a very frequent basis, which you should do, but you might not be getting the results. You might not be achieving success. So you're taking action, but you're not getting success. So don't confuse the two. By the end of this tutorial, you will know how to achieve success. And yeah, some of it's going to sound a little bit strange if you're coming from the podcast world, but stick with it. It absolutely works. It's proven to work. So let's play the iTunes algorithm. This is a really important aspect, especially if you have a new podcast, because we have 40 days to get into a special section on the iTunes website. It's called the New and Noteworthy section. Once you get in there, your audience size is going to grow rapidly. One of the best ways of achieving that is to upload your first 3 podcasts all at the same time. Now, this obviously works best if your podcast is brand new. So upload the first 3 episodes all at once, because what iTunes likes to do is when someone's finished listening to your podcast, it likes to give them the next one, or at least offer it to them. So you need 3 to take advantage of this and to play to the algorithm. Also, if you're thinking about launching a podcast and you know that you're ready to go, get reviewers on board in advance. So give influencers in your space access to previews. Let them check out your podcast early before anyone else, and then ask them to review it when it goes live. Another vital aspect of playing the algorithms is to be consistent. Have a schedule and stick to it. I recommend a minimum of once a week. I know that's not always possible, but the more content you produce, the more powerful you become. So let's move to the computer. So I'm at the desktop now. So what we're going to do is really knuckle down into the nuts and bolts of podcast marketing. And that all starts with knowing your audience. You absolutely have to know who your audience is. Really, you really do. So to discover who your audience is, listen, if you don't know who your audience is specifically, then you're just kind of wandering in the dark. you won't have any real targets, and you won't know how to really grow and foster that community that you need to if you want to grow big. So in discovering who your audience is, you need to know the psychographics. So you have to know not only what they want, but why they want it. And to help you uncover really who your audience is, we're also going to use a tool called the Facebook Audience Insights tool. I'm going to drag it onto the screen for you here, so hopefully you can see this. It's very simple to use. Everyone who has a Facebook account has access to this tool, and what it's going to show you is the Facebook audience and give you really interesting demographics and psychographics that you can use. So demographics is really what someone likes. That's what your audience likes. That's demographics. Psychographics is why they like it. So on the left hand side, let me just make sure you can actually see this. So on the left hand side, we've got a few options here. So if you know the demographics of your audience, if you know what ages they are, if it's predominantly men or women, then check those. If you don't know, that's fine. We just go to the interest section. So what you will type in here is something like the topic of your podcast. So at this stage, what we're going to do is we're not going to worry too much about your overall brand. There's a saying in marketing, promote the branches, not the tree. So what we're going to do is really focus on the audience who will listen to each episode of that podcast. So I know that On In 5 recently did a 9 Inch Nails episode. I'm a massive 9 Inch Nails fan, and I can't believe I get to combine my love of marketing with my love of 9 Inch Nails for this tutorial. So what you would do in this instance is you would use the Facebook Audience Insights tool, go to interests, and you can search through different, areas here, so you can drill down into different types of music if you want to. So let's say 9 Inch Nails is industrial, which falls under rock music. That is going to tell you, if you click on that, add that to the list here, you're going to see the demographics for rock music. So if we go down here, right down here, you're going to get even more information about your audience, or the audience who likes rock music. If we go to page likes, it's going to show you the most popular pages that rock fans like on YouTube. So if we go down here, you're going to be able to see other additional interests that audience also has. So for example, if you're stuck for ideas, this might uncover or give you fresh ideas on what to cover in your podcast. But it is still quite broad because we're talking about rock music, which is a huge area. So we want to get a bit more specific about things. So let's clear that and let's type in, because the episode we're talking about today is all about 9 Inch Nails. Let's type in 9 Inch Nails and let's see what it brings back. So if we click there, let's have a look at the demographics. So 41% of the audience are women, 59% are men. There you can see the age ranges. So most of their audience for both men and women are aged between 35 and 44. So that is going to be for this episode, that's going to be your core audience right there. Not to say we don't want to include ones on either side of this. We want to, really your audience is going to be from 25 to 54. So that's the big bulk of your audience. And if we scroll down here, we can see their personal status. So 49% are married. We can see that 63% have got a college education. Down here we have got, hopefully you can see this data. So it's going to tell you about their job titles. We can click on see more if we want to, but let's go up to the really interesting bit that page likes. So this is where we get into some of the psychographics. So additional artists that Nine Inch Nails fans like. So Primus, Perfect Circle, Tool, Deftones, all good stuff there. Artists, Kevin Smith, James and Bob, TV shows. We can have a look at even what food and beverage companies they like. Public figures, movies that Nine Inch Nails fans enjoy. So here it's going to help you to connect with that audience. You're going to know what they like talking about, what they're interested in addition to Nine Inch Nails. So you're going to be able to help foster community, create talking points. And if you go down here, we can see other pages that the Nine Inch Nails fan base has liked. So Primus, Perfect Circle, all these good bands, and we can click on see more. So this is going to help you uncover more information, more ideas for additional podcasts. So for example, you'll know that if an audience likes Nine Inch Nails, well, if you do an episode on Tool, there's going to be some crossover there, quite a lot of crossover. So you can leverage the popularity of one podcast episode into another. So use that as part of your strategy. Make sure that you're using the audience insights tool to uncover psychographics about your audience. That's really important. And also think about the aspirational groups of that audience. This is something I speak about at length sometimes on Profit Copilot, because generally speaking, we have two types of groups. We have aspirational groups and disassociative groups. A disassociative group is a group of people or an idea that your audience does not want to belong to. They are fundamentally against that group. If we think about politics, for example, we have Republicans versus Democrats. Republicans don't like Democrats. Democrats don't like Republicans. Apple Mac users versus PC users. You have to know what the disassociative group is and what the aspirational group is for your audience, and play to it, speak to it. It's really important, because if you can create this sense of community, of belonging, then your audience is going to align themselves with you, your values, your mission, because you speak for them. Okay, let's move on to keyword research. So, before we dive into some tools that I'm going to show you how to use, which are free, I'm going to show you how to get an exclusive 14-day trial. This is an exclusive free trial for Profit Copilot subscribers. We've teamed up with this tool that I'm going to show you how to use. And that is going to help you to uncover opportunities that you might not have previously thought about. So, before we start using that, what I want you to do is make a list of your top 30 competitors. So, you can do this on two different levels. So you can do it for your overall brand. So do it for your podcast in general. So list 30 other podcasts that are attempting to do the same thing as you. Ideally, you want to choose ones that are doing it better, so they have an audience, so they're good at what they're doing. List down 30 of those. But then for each episode, you want to do the same. So list down the top 30 podcast episodes for Nine Inch Nails. And then what you're going to do is find the commonalities between all of them. So there's going to be factors that make those episodes work, that make those episodes popular. And I want you to find them. So when you get a list of 30, analyze them. Take a real deep dive and find the commonalities. And that is going to give you the core elements that will make your podcast popular. Okay, next, we're going to use a tool called SEMrush. You're going to get a free 14-day trial, so you don't have to invest anything. You don't have to put in your credit card details, nothing like that. At least not the last time I checked. That may have changed, but the point is you're going to get a free 14-day trial. Usually they give you a 7-day trial, but because you're a Profit Copilot subscriber, you're going to get 14 days. That's an extra week to get loads of data for free. So if we drag in SEMrush, there's a link in the comments below, in the description. Click on that. It's going to give you that exclusive 14-day trial. So what I would suggest you do is take advantage of that, sign up for the tool, and then do a ton of research. So really hammer it for those 14 days. Use it to get as much data as you can, and that is going to hopefully set you up for months and months to come. And then, hey, you know, when you're making a profit or something, return to the tool and invest in it then. So I am an affiliate, but as you know, I don't do hard selling and all that stuff. And I only recommend tools that I personally use. And here you can see I'm using the tool myself. And that's why I suggest you use it too. So when you sign up, well, you've got loads of different options here. So we've got different toolkits to choose from. So what I want you to do is click on Keyword Analytics. It's going to pull down this menu, then click on Keyword Magic tool. We go to this this field. So we type in, think about the episode that you're intending to make. So your podcast, in this instance, it's going to be about 9-inch nails. So we will type in 9-inch nails and click search, and it's going to bring back lots of data. So you should be able to see this. What we want to pay attention to here is the search volume. We also want to keep an eye on the keyword difficulty. So both of those two things are very important for this. So the search volume tells you roughly how many people in the USA, and we can change the country if we want to. So if we want to go for UK or Australia, wherever you're targeting, wherever your audience is going to be, go with that option. I like to go for USA because it is generally the biggest market. So the volume here is going to tell you roughly how many people per month are searching for this key phrase or this keyword in Google. So we can see that 60,000 people, more than 60,000 people every month are searching for 9-inch nails. So that's huge. That's an absolute massive keyword to target. The competition for you is going to be too great. So your content is probably not going to get found, certainly not in Google, for that main key phrase, because Google now indexes and ranks podcasts in the search engine. So we want to make sure that we're taking advantage of that too. So the great thing with SEMrush is it's going to give you more data than you can probably handle. That's a really good problem to have. So we want to be looking for keywords that have a search volume of at least 1,000. So if we scroll right down here, let's go way to the bottom. So here you're going to get, say, like 9-inch nails poster that has a search volume of 320. Now that traffic, that might be incredibly targeted. So if you're selling 9-inch nails posters, it might be okay. Personally, I probably wouldn't go for that. I like to target keywords that have got at least 1,000. So if we go back up here, 800 is okay, but you want to be starting at around 1,000. Some of these might not be relevant. That's okay, because if you use SEMrush, you can click on questions, it's going to tell you the specific questions that people are searching in Google, plus the search volume there. Not fantastic there. Let's go back to all. Let's go related. So it's going to bring back additional ideas that you might not have considered before. So 9 Inch Nails, related, plus the search volume. It's all a bit mixed. Let's click on volume so we order the list according to search volume. So there, Trent Reznor, 74,000. That is huge. So what that tells us is there's a massive demand for information about Trent Reznor, but we can't really compete for that key phrase. So we might go a little bit deeper into that. If we click this, it's going to take us into the keyword overview tool. It's going to bring back additional ideas for us and related keywords. You can see some misspellings are making an appearance there. So you can drill down into a crazy level of detail and get additional keyword ideas. Do take the time, because your keyword research is vital. If you don't get your keywords right, you're not going to build your audience, because listen, you can target keywords that have got 70,000 searches a month and then get practically no traffic from that, which is likely because the competition is too high. Or you can target keywords that have got around 1,000 searches a month and have a much better chance of ranking higher for that content. Because remember, 100% of nothing is still nothing. So that's why keyword research is so important. And we've got, when it comes to keyword research, we have long tail and short tail. We want to go for long tail. So Trent Reznor, that's a short tail key phrase. However, if we go down to 9 Inch Nails tour, that is a long tail key phrase. Long tail key phrases have got at least 3 words. Short tail have got 1 or 2 words. You want to go for long tail. That's going to give you your best possible opportunity or chance of getting traffic, organic traffic, from those type of key phrases. And remember to keep the keyword search volume of at least 1,000 searches per month, because you do want to build that audience. Okay, so how do you optimize your content? We're actually going to get into content creation in a minute or so, but let's just talk about the optimization of that content, because you need to know that before you create your content. So we need to add the keywords that we've chosen from the previous step into a few things. We need to add them to the title of your podcast. We need to put them in the description of your podcast. We need to add them to the tags as well. In addition to that, we also name the actual podcast file, the MP3 file, with those keywords. And if we're using a thumbnail or any images, we call those files, those JPEGs, with the keywords. So it will be Trent Reznor or 9 Inch Nails .jpg. Obviously, you're going to choose a long tail key phrase instead of my short tail example there. And then when we have the optimization side done on your actual content, we need to think about the internal and external links. So we're going to talk about your website in a second, because that is a vital aspect in your marketing strategy. You might not think it. You might think, well, iTunes and Spotify, these are the big players. That's what you need to be paying attention to. I'm actually going to encourage you to invest more energy into building your own website and getting that content ranked in Google and other search engines. And ultimately, that is going to do you a lot more good long term. That's going to grow your audience faster in the long run. So if we're using the On in 5 podcast as an example, let's drag in their website. This is how it looks today. I expect it's going to change a little bit in the future, but here we have links. So these are internal links in the navigation. We can have internal links on the actual content itself. And what I want you to do on your website is, first of all, every time you publish a podcast, add it on your page as a separate page. Now, I recommend using a self-hosted WordPress blog. This doesn't look like a WordPress website to me. But whatever CMS or platform you're using, I'm sure it's going to be fine. But the point is, you want to add every single episode you publish as a brand new page on here in addition. We're going to talk more about creating content and what to do with that content in a second. But what you need to do is have your internal links working for you. So, for example, let's click on reading. So here we have lots of sections here. So let's go to 9 Inch Nails. And this is probably an affiliate offer to this book that they mention in the podcast. So if we go back, this is actually a link. So that's your anchor text. So we want to take full advantage of that, but more so on your actual websites. So we'd want to really think about categorizing your website section in a more logical way. So here, let's see. So Guns N' Roses, Type O Negative, 9 Inch Nails, Fleetwood Mac, these are kind of rock bands. You could even drill down further, so you could have a rock category, then drill down into, say, goth, into industrial, and so on. And over time, when you do that enough and you add enough content, quality content, you will eventually build an authority website. Now, authority websites are the sites that make crazy money. And that is what everyone needs to be aiming for if they're publishing on the internet, to build an authority website. I actually have a free video tutorial on how to build an authority website. If you want to check that out, I will put a link to it somewhere in this tutorial and also in the description for you too. So your internal links, well, we'll get them in order, but also we need to think about your external links, how other websites are linking to you. These are really important. So we want relevant, high quality links from other platforms, other relevant sites. Oops, I just hit the mic. So we want high quality links from other platforms, other websites. And to help improve the chances of success, we want to make sure that those links have got the right anchor text. So if you have an episode about 9 Inch Nails, you want to call that link, the words used in that link, something to do with 9 Inch Nails. So that's going to tell Google and other search engines that this piece of content that you've made is relevant to people who are interested or searching for content to do with 9 Inch Nails. I hope that makes sense. Okay, next, let's move on to your content. So when it comes to creating content, you're going to need a few things. We're going to get into a few of these in a bit more detail, but you need a hook, you need a branded intro, you need good content, obviously, and you need a call to action. So going back to the title that you use, well, that's going to be the first thing that people see. So the title, remember we covered it here in optimization. Well, your title, that is going to have obviously your keywords in there, but it needs an emotional trigger too. So you need the big payoff. Think about the way clickbait is done. I'm not saying use clickbait, but think about the impact that has. Now, interestingly enough, clickbait came about because BuzzFeed developed a split testing tool. So it took 2 or more versions of every headline, They actually added, I think it was around 20, 25 different versions of each headline, and then they tested it against each other. So they all ran simultaneously across the internet, and they found that the clickbaity headlines got the most clicks. So that tells you that being inspired by clickbait but not using clickbait is effective. That's just what the data says. I don't like it, I don't agree with it, but we have to follow the data. As marketers, we want the best possible results. Now, when it comes to crafting a good title, it has to pay off. The thing with clickbait is it doesn't pay off. It makes a promise that it does not deliver on. So we don't do that. If we make a claim or a promise in the title, there is a payoff. We deliver what we promise, and then it stops being clickbait. So think about using those elements, that kind of emotional trigger, the same emotional trigger, so curiosity or shock, something that creates rubbernecking. Rubbernecking is such a powerful tool that we can use. So think about something that is going to absolutely make someone click on that link, and then when they consume the content, deliver on that promise. In addition to crafting good headlines, we need to find your unique voice. So if you're reading from a script or from a book, unfortunately, that's not your voice. That's someone else's. And people can find that somewhere else. They can go to Amazon and buy that book. They can get an audio copy. What they want from a podcast is to hear your unique voice, your unique perspective, your opinion, your feelings on things. That's what they really want. And when you embed these feelings, these opinions into stories, you're going to have them hooked. But stories are useless without a lesson. So when you're thinking about creating your stories, you need to think about what the lesson is. What's the you've heard it before, what's the moral of the story? We don't want to go down that route, but we certainly want to have a lesson or some point to the story that is relevant. It needs to be relevant to your audience. So only share stories that you know your audience will be interested in and possibly may reflect their own experiences. That's a smart way to start building rapport and trust. And of course, when it comes to making money on the internet, nothing happens without trust. If they don't trust you, they ain't going to buy stuff based on your recommendation. But possibly one of the most important aspects when it comes to creating content, especially educational content, which I know a lot of you guys out there are doing, and the On in 5 podcast is pretty much 100% educational, which is fantastic if you want to make money, because people love educational content. They'll consume it all day long. But to create that educational content, of course, you're going to use other sources. You're going to remix things. You're going to take elements from a source here. You're going to take something from somewhere else. But no matter what you do, you have to learn for two. That's the secret to good content creation. Learn for two. So imagine teaching what you are learning. So if you're reading a book, do it with the purpose of teaching someone that lesson. So highlight sections of it. Imagine talking about it on your podcast. Also, really, really vital, you have to add value. Maybe simplify it. Remove the complicated things. Improve it. Make it better. Add value. So don't just deliver content from one source that you've taken and just deliver it straight to your audience without doing something to it. Add something. Think about those restaurants, the expensive restaurants. They often take pretty cheap food, pretty cheap meat, and then they transform it into something special, and they charge a premium for that. So you can do the same thing with your content. You can take content from anywhere, and it can be a lousy piece of content that you start with, but as long as you build on it and add value and change it into something that has your unique voice with storytelling and a lesson, you're going to make really, really high impact content that people will love to consume. You need to think of the facts and the figures. So the educational stuff, think of it as medicine. So you're giving people the medicine, but think of stories and your opinion as the spoon that holds the medicine. So they ain't going to consume anything without the right stories and the right voice. Okay, your intro. This is an essential, vital part of your branding strategy. So to find the right intro for you, because you can't go into this blind, what you need to do is listen to the top podcasts in your niche. Transcribe those intros. It won't take you very long if you're willing to outsource it or work together as part of a team. But you need to transcribe those intros, find the commonalities. A lot of what we do in marketing is finding the commonalities. We find what makes something successful. Then, once you know the core elements that makes a high impact intro for the top podcasts in your niche, you have to use royalty-free songs. If you use copyrighted music, you're going to end up in trouble. Also, in my experience, the top podcasts have high energy intros. Do check it. You know, your niche, your particular niche might not be exactly the same, but generally speaking, high energy intros have quite a good impact on the listener, because podcasts are upbeat, they're supposed to be fun. So music that have got at least 120 beats per minute generally works really well. But do test it, do have a look at what others in your niche are doing, and listen to the top podcasts. So the takeaway from this section: listen to your top podcasts, transcribe them, use 120 beats per minute music. Okay, let's talk about your call to action and how you can profit from it. So in every episode, you need multiple calls to action. So you can ask your audience to subscribe, to share your podcast, but really you want to use the call to action to build your email list, because as we said earlier, this is the real engine of your business. This is what's going to grow your audience faster. And yeah, it sounds counterintuitive, and it actually took me a long time to get to grips with email marketing, because as regular viewers will know, I built my first hobby website to 4 million visitors a month, but I did it without an email list. And then when the algorithm changed, Google, changes things all the time. What happened? My earnings plummeted. So Google AdSense, I was making 100% of my income through Google AdSense, and I didn't have an email list. So when things changed with Google, boom, my income dropped. And the way I recovered from that was to build an email list to prevent it from happening again. So should any changes happen to my website or my marketing channels, I always have that asset that I can tap into. And you have to nurture your email list. You have to use it to deliver enormous value. So every time you have a new episode, you email your subscribers. Every time you have a new offer to promote, you email your subscribers. But you have to keep it all relevant. If it's not relevant, then you're not going to see results. We're going to talk about how to keep things relevant in a few minutes. But if someone is interested in your podcast, so if they're consuming good content and it's about rock music, The call to action has to be relevant to their interest. So you will build that email list from their interests. We'll talk about this more in a second, but we segment email lists. So what that means is you can have one master email list, and then as you start building that list, some people might be interested in rock, other people might be interested in blues. So you can segment them very easily. It's automatic, in fact. They segment themselves. But we do this so the emails that they receive are relevant to them. When they receive relevant emails, guess what? They're going to open it. They're going to read it. They're going to take action. That's why we keep it relevant. So we'll get into that in a bit more detail later. But for now, I'm going to give you a method that you can use right now today to 3x your audience size. You're going to grow your audience threefold very quickly and easily. So before I walk you through this method, I've actually got another one for you later on in this. So I'm going to give you this one, which is a long-term strategy. Start working on it now. You can get up and running with this immediately. But I'm going to show you how to get more listeners very fast. So what I want you to do is do both. So by the end of this tutorial, you are going to know how to get more subscribers than you thought possible. So we're going to repurpose your main content. So your podcast should be just one column of an overall content marketing strategy. So if we break it down, if we look at what I'm doing, my combined reach across all channels, all my marketing channels, is probably around 17,000 at the moment. And that is because I repurpose content. I have multiple channels. So while my YouTube channel at the moment has got around 7,000 subscribers, that is about half of my overall audience size because I have these different channels working for me. Remember I said we diversify everything? That's why we do it. We don't become dependent on any single channel. So your podcast is just one column in an overall content marketing strategy. So what I want you to do is take your audio file, get it transcribed, go to rev.com, do it yourself if you want to, use someone on Fiverr, it doesn't matter. Get that transcribed, get it into an article, and then let's go back to your website. So let's drag in your website. So if we go to, let's say, listen, here we have the Podbean player, and it lists all your most recent podcasts. This is what a lot of podcasters do. But what I want you to do is create a brand new page for each of these podcasts and embed just that podcast on the page. So this page, let's say this is a 9 Inch Nails episode, and underneath that player that has got that particular episode in it, underneath that, down here, we paste in your transcript. So that is like food for the search engines. So paste that in, and now that becomes another column in your content marketing strategy. In addition to that, I want you to upload every episode to YouTube and think about the keywords. Add your tags in there as well. That is very important. But beyond that, I want you to also break up each piece of content into smaller chunks, into satellite content. So what you can do is upload, say, 60 seconds worth of audio to Instagram with a nice image. That becomes almost like it's like a teaser or a little snippet, and use that to start a conversation on other channels, on other marketing channels. So you want to have big talking points that the community can latch onto, that they can discuss. So I'm going to map out how it all fits together in a few minutes. But for now, just think about this satellite content. So we can take audio snippets, we can take parts of your transcript, so we can add quotes, we can turn them into images, we can put them on Pinterest, we can post all this micro content or satellite content across different channels, and use the other Profit Copilot videos on the YouTube channel that I'm giving you. Use those traffic sources to promote your micro and satellite content as well. So this is the fun bit for me. I put the fun in funnels. How cheesy, right? This is all about marketing funnels. I absolutely love funnels because I know firsthand the power of funnels. I've seen how much profit they can make for people, not just for me, but for anyone who does it right. And you don't need to invest in expensive funnel software to do it. Of course, that's an option for you if you have a budget. I recommend Kartra. That's what I'm using at the moment. I think that's probably the best one on the market right now. It's certainly the most powerful. That's why I use it. And if you do sign up to Kartra, and if you use my affiliate link below, I'm going to give you my most profitable funnel done for you. So you can deploy that into Kartra and just get up and running. I'm going to give that to you for free when you sign up through my affiliate link below. So I'm going to show you how to build a funnel. You can use normal HTML pages, you can use WordPress, doesn't matter. But the point is we can create multiple funnels. So I'm going to show you how to create one. I'm going to map it all out for you. You just copy that, and then you can create multiple funnels. So for example, if one episode is about rock music, create a funnel specifically for people who are interested in rock music. If one episode is about blues, then you want to make a separate funnel specifically for people who are interested in blues music. And this keeps it all relevant. But how do you really grow this funnel? Well, we use a free gift. We give people access to additional content that they can't get anywhere else. So this is sometimes called a lead magnet. You might have heard of it as an ethical bribe. Doesn't matter. The point is you give them something for free that they can only get when they opt into your email list. I recommend giving them something like a very short PDF, a cheat sheet, a practical guide, something that is quick and easy for them to consume. We don't want to bog them down with too much information. The point is to just get them onto your email list and start the funnel sequence, which I'm going to map out for you now. So I'm going to go ahead and pull in the browser window. We're going to go to Funneletics. Hopefully you can see this. So let's start with some pages. Okay, let's go pages. Let's drag in a generic page. So this page is going to have your podcast hosted on it. So podcast episode, let's say it's about 9 Inch Nails. So this is an episode about 9 Inch Nails. Now we need some traffic sources. So let's go to traffic. We can use Facebook, we can use YouTube, Twitter, we can use Snapchat, Reddit. Doesn't really matter. The point is we have all these different traffic sources linking back to this episode, to this page. So we put teaser content on all these social media platforms. We can put the actual episode as well if we want to. That's fine. But the important thing is, and hopefully you can actually see this, the important thing is we have traffic going from all of these sources to your page. And this is a page that you own and control. So we're not sending traffic to iTunes. We're not sending traffic to Spotify. Everything is going to this one page that you own and control. And this has got your podcast episode. It also has your call to action on the page, not just inside the audio file on the podcast. We have it on the page itself. Now, why would you really want to have a website with each episode? Well, in addition to all the tracking and the conversion stuff that we can do, which we'll talk about in a few minutes, it also gives you credibility. It makes you look like a serious player. And especially when you have that transcript and list of resources in there and call to action, it is going to set you apart from 95% of the people who start podcasting. It tells your audience you're for real. This is something you mean. You're investing in it. You're putting resources into establishing a brand. And that's what you're doing here. You're growing a brand. You're not just one of these fly-by-night podcasters that set up and do a few episodes and then forget about it because you're not getting traction. You know the score. You know it's going to take a while to get traction. You're committed to that. And you will demonstrate that by having this kind of system running. So let's add another page on here. Let's actually add an action. So if we're offering a free gift, let's say it's a PDF. So let's call that something like free gift. We're offering this on both the podcast episode and on the page itself. So we want people to grab that, and then the second that they do, so there's a form that they fill in. As soon as they fill in that form, let's go to email. Let's name that email list. So the second they subscribe to this, they're added to your email list. And then what will happen is you have built an asset that you own and control. So with this, let's go here. So the next time you have a new episode, let's call that new episode, you email your list with a link back to that episode. Now, let's say you have, let's clone this. Now, let's say you have an offer, or there's a new release or a new book about a particular band. You might want to tell your list, so new offer. And that's where you make your money. So you might have heard the saying, the money is in the list. This is how. So we deliver value, we treat your email list with respect, we give them good stuff that we know that they're interested in, so we cater to their specific needs and their interests, and then we make the occasional offer when we think it's going to benefit them. And that's how you make money. And that is because we have different types of traffic. So different types of audience. So the people here who encounter your satellite or micro content, this is cold traffic. Cold traffic up here. Cold traffic doesn't buy. Cold traffic does not convert. Maybe 1%, if you're lucky, will actually take out the credit card and buy something. It's not many. So what we need to do is just use good free content to bring them in to this level. So when they receive value from you, they opt in to get that free gift. they become warm. This is warm traffic because they now trust you. They've already taken action and they want more content from you. They want more value. So you give it to them. You give them that free gift, deliver value. This builds trust. And then, because they trust you, they're now hot traffic. So when you put something that is going to be of specific benefit and interest to them, that they can buy, your conversion rate, the number of people who buy, is going to be significantly higher than up here. So here, you should be getting a conversion rate of I would say, a minimum of 10%. So 10 times more. And how you monetize doesn't really matter. So this offer, it can be an affiliate link to an Amazon product, ClickBank if you want to sell digital products, which I recommend, because you're going to get a much higher commission. So you're talking something like between 50% and 75%. You know, when you compare that to Amazon's 4%, it's kind of a no-brainer. But anyway, that's how the marketing funnel flows. It's very simple, very elegant, but it really does work. So let's carry on and move on to retargeting. So what retargeting is all about is re-engaging people who didn't take the action that you wanted them to. Because listen, at this stage of the funnel, so people are going to land on your page. A percentage will opt in to your email list, but most people won't. So I'm going to show you how to re-engage the people who don't, so you can bring them back in and then hopefully get them into your funnel. So for this, we're going to use Facebook ads. Don't worry, you're not going to spend a fortune. You can do it really cheap, you know, because we're only dealing with people who've already consumed a piece of your content. We're not going for mass market here. We're targeting very specific people, only the people who've already visited your website. So if we have a look back here, when they land on this page, it's called pixeled. They receive a pixel. So on this page in the code, and there's plugins that will do it for you, so you don't have to get technical. But when they land on this page, they receive a Facebook pixel. So how this works is, have you ever searched for something, golf clubs or something on the internet, and then you've been on Amazon, had a look at a few, and then you decide that you're not going to buy. Instead, you start surfing around Facebook or somewhere else, and guess what happens? You start seeing ads for golf clubs. It's weird, right? It's like, how the hell did they know that I wanted golf clubs? That's retargeting. They do that through the pixel. So you want to do it too. It makes perfect sense, right? So if someone has just listened to your podcast and they don't opt into your email list, instead they're surfing around Facebook and they see an ad that that tells them to take action. So it's like, oh, I've just listened to that podcast. Now I'm seeing ads and they want to give me this free gift. So again, you're dealing with warm traffic. And that means it's very cheap to run ads. It really is cheap because you're only targeting previous listeners, people who already know who you are. And when you do this right, it builds your audience fast. We can do that through custom audiences, and if you want more information on how to do this, tell me in the comments. I'll create a video walking you through how to do it when I get a chance. So that's how we pull people in, that's how we convert them into paying customers. But we need to also do some tracking because, okay, tracking is kind of boring, but it is insanely important. You know, if you want to turn this into a business, then you have to do the tracking. You have to do this. There's no question about it. And it's so important because if we don't track, we don't know what's working. If we don't know what's working, then we're just running blind. So when you track, you will see what is working and you will know to do more of that. Another big cornerstone of marketing It's just finding what works and then doing more of it. It's really that simple. So when you track things, we use a UTM. I'll show you how to do it. It's called UTM. But when we use that, it tells us exactly which of our campaigns are working. So start thinking in terms of campaigns. So for example, you might have a link to your podcast and you're pushing that on Facebook. So you're entering Facebook groups that are relevant to that artist that you're talking about. Well, guess what? You need a campaign for Facebook. So that's going to tell you what's working. So with the UTM, I'll show you how to do it. It's very simple. But in your Google Analytics, it will show you which traffic sources are working the best for you. So if you're promoting episode 1 on Facebook and you're getting traction and results from that, it will tell you. Maybe you're also using Twitter, but you're not getting results. So with UTM, it shows you where you need to focus on. So you do more of what's working. So let me show you the campaign URL builder. This is free to use. I'll put a link to it in the description for you. So what you do here, it's really simple. You put in a link to the episode page. This only works on your particular website, by the way. So that's why we take control of things on your site, and that's where we do the promotion. So we send traffic, to your pages. So we put the website URL there to that specific episode, and then if we're running, let me show you. So if we go https your site.com, then 9 Inch Nails episode 1 maybe. So that would be the URL. We add the campaign source. So if we're going to promote this on, let's say, Facebook, we type in Facebook there. So this then tells us in the analytics, in Google Analytics, that traffic is coming from Facebook. You can give it a campaign medium if you want to. So you can say maybe if it's a meme, or if you're using images, you could add that there, and then you can give it a name. So Facebook could be the campaign name. Then you go down here and it's automatically generated the URL for you. So now, instead of linking to this, instead of promoting that on Facebook, you would now promote this link. That is step 1. But that looks really ugly. And I don't know about you, but I really don't like seeing URLs with the UTM parameters in them. So what you can do instead is go to something like bit.ly and then shorten that link so it looks a bit neater. Or if you're using WordPress, which I do recommend, then you can use a plugin called Pretty Links, and that's going to make it look tidier for you. I recommend that you do either one of those. But the important thing to note here is that we do not use UTM inside our website. So remember, we spoke about having links on your website here. So if we're going to, let's say, reading here, you would not use UTM on these links because that will overwrite the previous action. So you want to keep UTM off internal links and only use them on external links. Now, when it comes to tracking your conversions, we can do that in Google Analytics by creating goals. If you want more information on how to do that, I will create a separate video because it's a little bit involved. It is pretty simple to do, but it's going to take a little bit of time to walk you through installing the code, setting up the campaigns, that kind of thing. But I can do that for you when I get a chance if you want me to. So that's tracking pretty much covered. Now, when you're growing this audience, you're going to have a pretty good experience, generally speaking, but every now and then you're going to have haters. Haters are a good sign. When you get haters, it means you're doing something right, because we can break audiences down into sections. So basically, not everyone is going to like you, and that's fine. That's a good thing, because you don't want everyone to like you. You want to appeal to a very specific audience. So 10% of your audience are going to be tire kickers. They're not haters, but they'll be very entitled. They'll complain about things. They'll expect stuff for free, and then they'll still complain about that free stuff. They're never happy. 10% of your audience are people like that. You can't help it. It's probably just best to ignore those people. I have a little strategy with those people, because they're tire kickers. They're never going to be happy. What they like to do is blame other people for their failure. That's okay. What I like to do is overwhelm them with kindness. So what I do is I've noticed a pattern over the last 20 years or so dealing with people on the internet. When you give tire kickers what they want and the help that they think they need, it actually pushes them away from you. It works really beautifully. So they'll come to you with a complaint. They're not happy. Something doesn't work. It's your fault. They'll blame you. What I do, I help them. And then, they realize that, oh, this actually takes work. I have to put in the effort. Someone is removing my ability to blame them for my lack of success. So they move on to someone else. They start blaming someone else. But it's never themselves. So 10% of your audience is going to be tire kickers. But 10% will become raving fans. They're going to share your stuff. They're going to buy stuff from you. They're going to be the main focus of your content. That's who you create your content for. That's really what the business is all about. It's for those people, that 10% that share your stuff, that become absolutely devoted fans. Now, unfortunately, there are haters amongst your audience. In my experience, the number of real haters is tiny. It's 0.4%. That's nothing, right? So 0.4% of people will be haters, and they will take their time. They'll actually take time out of their day to attack you. You and I both know that that's a pretty sad state of affairs. If they're in that state of mind where they feel like they need to stop their day in order to attack someone else, I don't think there's any real help for someone like that. So, how do you deal with them? The best thing you can do is just ignore them. Sounds simple, right? Understand why they are haters. They are, in most cases, they are the people who want to do what you are doing. They're jealous. And that's all it is. They're annoyed that you're doing something that they can't do themselves. So they're taking it out on you. It's really as simple and as petty as that. So don't feed them. Don't acknowledge them. Don't deal with them. Take the high ground. Ignore them. They'll move on to someone else. Okay. With that said, if you want to grow your listeners and your audience fast, I'm going to show you how to do it. I'm going to give you a strategy now that you can just take and use to get massive amounts of listeners and traffic fast. You're going to get 10 mid-sized influencers in your space. So I'm not talking about the superstars, but someone who has a sizable audience, someone who has an audience that is certainly bigger than your current audience. So you want at least 10 of them. Now, to get 10 on board, you might need to reach out to 30. You might need to reach out to 50. Because not everyone is going to acknowledge your email or your phone call. Not everyone's going to agree to it. That's fine. Some people will even want to be paid, which again is fine too, because they're helping you out. They're taking time out of their day to help you. But you want to get 10 mid-sized influencers in your space that has got a similar audience to the one that you want to attract. And you ask them all the same question. So you might ask them something like, what is the most important thing with X? Or how do you do Y? Doesn't matter. But you ask them all the same question. So you could say something like, in 100 words or less, what is the best way, or what is the biggest influence on, whatever it might be. The question, if it's one of those burning issues that your audience is facing or wondering about or wants to know more about, that can be a really good tactic. However, the important thing here is to just get 10 mid-sized influencers on board, ask them all the same question. So each one is giving you their unique perspective on that question, and then you compile their answers into a podcast, into a single podcast. This becomes a roundup of industry experts, and that is so brandable. So what you're doing now is leveraging the credibility, authority, and respect of these influencers, and you are bringing it to your podcast. Not only that, some of these mid-sized influencers will then talk about your podcast, will share it with their audience, and bring that audience to you. So imagine if 7 out of 10 of these mid-sized influencers told their audiences about this podcast that they'd been featured on. That's going to do wonders for you. That's going to grow your audience faster. And speaking of getting listeners and traffic, how do you get more traffic fast? Well, I'm going to give you the mother of all traffic strategies for free when you go to profitcopilot.com/traffic. Grab that. It won't cost you a penny. And if you found this useful, give it a thumbs up below. Subscribe to the channel too. Hit that little notification bell so you never miss an update from me. And I will hopefully see you again in a couple of days' time. Take care.